Crazy, isn't it? How when you're down on your knees, begging for a hand, for a sign, or wisdom from above, you look up to see a hustler, a clown, and a rattler. Which hand would you choose?
Let me, please.
Thank you.
This time the man extending his hand was more mature and his eyes were kind. She remembered this man, well, sort of. She had caught a glimpse of him on the plane, seated beside the player that was hustling her. In fact, this man was the reason she had tugged the player along, allowing herself to stay disarmingly churlish despite her best instincts. She was actually trying to remember who this very man was. She wanted a good look at him. Distinguished, broad-shouldered, distinctive eyes. She distinctly remembered meeting his eyes before. In fact, she felt she knew him quite well, but could not think of a place or a name. Perhaps he was from her childhood, she wondered. Regina showed no sign of knowing him. Could he be a glimmer transmitted from her missing hours? Peena kept that secret well, even from Regina, the 18 hours of her life that's just gone blank. Totally unaccounted for, dangerously blank. Not that she wanted to keep it secret. She tried not to keep it a secret, but circumstances forced her. The man helped her off the floor and escorted her to the coffee shop, to a chair facing the western vistas where the sun's ancient signals flashed from a mountain of autumnal clouds. She took a deep breath, and like a bird whose feathers had just been ruffled, she shook herself back into sorts and sat upright, seemingly implacable. Yet, deep down, she had a weird feeling that those bullets were meant for her. No proof, just intuition. The very intuition that made her want to stay in the company of this man in a black coat, this man with such distinctive eyes, whom she'd swear she knows. But from where? Coffee or water?
Thanks. Water.
These momentary lapses in a single bead of sweat on her bloodless temple and the way she fiddled with her right earlobe betrayed the violent quiver beneath her skin. She felt spared and wanted to be grateful, but would rather not dwell on the matter, whether for good or ill. You don't know about me without you've read a book by the name of The Mysteries of Miss Peena. That book was made by Martin, and I tell the truth, mainly. Remembering how Martin used to say this to her in a crude, affected drawl, and how it used to make her giggle like a baby, was like a balm, like a poultice for the hurt beneath the tragic wound, now scabbed over so very thickly. Remembering how he used to let the words drag and drip from his lips was to her like a cooling rain in the desert heat. If a fear could bring her down, it was the fear that in some unguarded moment that scab would rip and her soul would bleed, and she would bleed slowly to death. So it helped to hear it again and again. You don't know about me without you've read a book by the name of The Mysteries of Miss Peena. That book was made by Martin, and I tell the truth, mainly. She took a long and even breath. exhaled smoothly, then repeated the sequence. And there it was again, that distant rumble. Trouble somewhere, she'd come to think of it. Trouble somewhere. Lord have mercy. She remembered when she first began hearing this rumble. It was at the end of her missing hours. When she came to, she realized she was at the base of Olympus in her car with no memory of how she got there and no one around surprised by her being there. Her fingers came up to her earlobe. Her diamond earring was missing. On that lobe alone. Stranger still, it was the very lobe Martin loved taking between his lips and twirling with his tongue and nibbling. She used to warn him he'd swallow that diamond someday, but he'd just growl in her ear and make jokes about how that diamond would enrich him, and whatever else he'd whisper into her ears in those moments was so very private, it causes her even now to blush at the memories. That first time, though, as she was fiddling with her earlobe and discovering that the diamond was missing from that ear, was the first time she heard the rumble. Distant, yet clear. Well, of course, Martin had told her about that rumble too. She had always thought he was being silly. He could be charmingly silly at times. Now, too many things were beginning to add up. So much of what Martin told her, odd as some of it was proving to be right on the money, or at least, so they seemed to be. And the very questions that plagued her when she first heard the rumble since then plagued her repeatedly. What stirs this rumble? Who is behind it? Man, beast, angel, demon? Forces of nature clashing violently, one of the 7 wars, a noisy confusion in her mind, the vibrations of her secret. Yes, that secret too. She wished Martin was around to hint at some answer. She wished she had asked him when she had the chance. There it was again, the rumble. She breathed. Evenly, and realized what coffee shop she was in. Starbucks.
Well, which one did you choose?